Mom told me to go. Could we just stay for tonight, please? My 9-year-old grandson paid us an unexpected visit late in the evening. He was in his bare feet, blood seeping from his toes, when I hurried to answer the door. In addition, he was hugging his sister, who is 4 years old, closely as tears were running down her cheeks. Did you two really walk here all by yourselves? They gave me a nod, and I quickly opened the door for them. But my spouse was enraged when he awoke. I was stunned to see the grandkids cry from the horrifying look on his face. They should have been allowed to stay for just one night, I believed. Following that, I was astounded by what my spouse had done. I'm Eleanor, a 63-year-old housewife who resides with her 2-year-old husband, George. He taught high school until retiring at the age of 60. Both of our kids are grown-ups and self-sufficient. Our son, Simon, resides in the surrounding town, and our daughter, Claire, resides in a nearby apartment. Our eldest son's wife, Victoria, is breathtakingly gorgeous with transparent white skin. With such large eyes, she could make even ladies flutter. As long as she said nothing, she was the perfect daughter-in-law. She did, however, have a terrible mouth. Why a lady of my caliber would marry a man like him is a question that everyone asks. Are you saying Simon isn't up to your standard? He makes a respectable living and works for a prestigious firm, but let's face it, he's not particularly attractive. But I'm not that particular, so I suppose he's lucky. The insults she leveled at my own son made me feel furious. Who do you think you are? I didn't want to get into an argument, so I resisted the need to speak. My spouse, though, was unable to remain silent. Simon sure married quite an impressive wife, didn't he? Victoria seems unmoved by the snarky comment and even grinned dismissively. All Simon could do in return was grin. Victoria is too good for me, he declared. When I saw this, I assumed that my gentle son was probably having some marital difficulties. They did, however, have a child together, Daniel, our first grandson, in spite of their disagreements. Daniel had an exceptionally attractive face and bore a strong resemblance to his mother. He had Simon's personality in terms of kindness, which was the ideal fusion of his parents' greatest traits. Sometimes Simon would bring Daniel over to our place, and I always looked forward to it. Victoria did not come much, but I felt that this could be best for us both. Then, 5 years after Daniel's birth, we also received Emily, our granddaughter. She was a sweet little girl with wide eyes, round cheeks, and light complexion. But when I went to my son's house to celebrate her birth, Victoria gave the baby a contemptuous stare. Daniel is gorgeous and looks like me, so why is this one so ugly and plump? Is she even similar to anyone? She is not at all cute. Don't say that. You're a mother. She's adorable exactly the way she is. I am free to say anything I want regarding my own child. Are you attempting to cause me problems? I won't fall short against a hag like you, though. My husband's expression altered as soon as he heard this conversation from me next to him. He seemed ready to yell in my support, so I stepped in quickly. Rather, it was our kid who became enraged and raised his voice. Enough, Victoria. Parents arrived to celebrate. You can only be impolite to so much extent. How strange that you would confront me. Very intriguing, she remarked, giving Simon a fierce glare and appearing prepared to attack. I gave in easily. I apologized to Victoria. You're in a tough period right now after giving baby. It wasn't wise of me to say that. I'm sorry. I hope you will pardon me. Exactly. You ought not to have said. Instead of traveling all the way here, you might have just given a gift of money. I was unable to speak out, but Victoria's manners were always bad. It was because of these kinds of occurrences that we drifted apart later. But Simon still brought Daniel and Emily around to us on a regular basis. Although seeing our gorgeous grandchildren made us delighted, I was still a little worried. Daniel was intelligent and chatty, while Emily barely spoke at all, even at 3 and 4 years old. Her hands were dry and scratchy, and her pale complexion had acquired a rather dark shade from sunburn. Victoria responded to my question about it by saying Emily enjoyed playing in the garden. Having said that, our granddaughter's skin condition was quite worrying. Our family experienced tragedy one day. Simon, my son, went away unexpectedly. During his travel, he went from a pedestrian bridge's stairs, and an ambulance was called to take him to safety. He got intense treatment at the hospital after being taken there, but sadly he did not survive. I was so shocked that I was unable to even stand. You miserable creature, Simon. It had to have hurt a lot. Daddy, what's up, Dad? Awaken, awake. Emily stayed silent and bit her lip as Daniel sobbed hysterically. Victoria kept playing around with her phone without even blinking. Even though, in retrospect, I see that this was an odd situation, I was too distraught to notice anything else at the time. The paramedics located our son's old, worn-out bag beneath the pedestrian bridge and gave it to my husband. It was a bag that I had purchased for him upon his employment. He had been diligently working and saving for the family. Everything became much more unbearable to contemplate. Our daughter's husband was mostly responsible for planning the wake and funeral, which went off without a hitch. I was at home in a stupor during that time. The intercom rang in the middle of the night, the day following the funeral. I glanced at the camera, wondering what was going on, and saw Daniel's lips being bit. I quickly unlocked the door and welcomed him inside. Daniel forced back tears and said, "Mom told us to leave," in an unusual voice. "Could we just stay for tonight, please?" My grandson had blood seeping from his toes, and he was wearing bare feet. "Did you two walk here all by yourselves?" The grandkids gave a nod, but the travel from the nearby town took 10 minutes. Daniel, who is 9 years old, could be able to walk, but Emily was only 4 years old. They must have been scared because it was the middle of the night. My husband had also woken up when I allowed them into the living room, so I talked to him about Daniel's wish to spend the night. "Please, Grandpa, let's head out tomorrow," Daniel urged. "It's not at all," my spouse answered. The youngsters started crying, and I was taken aback by my husband's scowl and scared demeanor. "Can't we at least let them stay for one night?" My husband sobbed hysterically as he tightly clutched the grandkids, despite my pleas. He repressed his tears even during our son's death. Despite our 30 years of marriage, I had never seen my husband cry so much until now. "Don't say just for today. Stay here forever, poor you," were those words that let me understand his sentiments, and I started weeping uncontrollably. When I later asked the grandkids about what had transpired, they told me something startling. Despite being expected to be a stay-at-home mom, Victoria frequently left the kids alone at home throughout the day. She would often chastise Emily and shove her harshly for different reasons, even while she was at home. Victoria would yell fiercely, "Shut up," whenever Emily sobbed. "Keep silent, you bother me." Emily eventually mastered the art of weeping soundlessly. Because he felt terrible for Emily, Daniel apparently received criticism too when he attempted to stand up for his younger sister. Emily was not permitted to attend kindergarten, therefore she was not able to escape his mother's conduct as he could by going to school. Emily looked to have gone outdoors every day to weed the garden while her mother was living there. She did this in an attempt to get Victoria to give her less criticism and maybe even some praise. This explains why her hands were rough and her skin intensely browned. Maybe Emily is afraid of getting reprimanded, which is why she can't say anything. Victoria reportedly informed them that evening that there will be guests and gave them the order to walk outdoors. Daniel finished putting on his shoes, but Emily was left barefoot as she was unable to arrive in time. With haste, Victoria secured the front door after them. So, as they made their way to our house in need of assistance, Daniel placed his shoes on Emily's feet and held her hand. What an incredible, horrible thing to do. I made many attempts to phone my daughter-in-law, but was unable to get through. I chose to spend the night with my grandchildren because it was late at night. Daniel, nevertheless, woke me up early in the morning. I apologized to Grandma for waking you up. Emily claimed to have seen Dad in a dream. Well, did she not? Then Dad told Emily to look inside the bag. Though his words surprised me, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to it after noticing Daniel's grave demeanor. Telling my husband what Daniel had stated, I got him out of bed. My spouse was initially dubious because he was still sleepy, but he cried out in shock after seeing our son's suitcase. In no manner. This is ridiculous. This is beyond forgiveness. We were so furious that we made the decision to act. In a hurry, we contacted our oldest daughter, Claire, who lives close by, and requested her to come watch the grandkids at our house. My spouse and I, in the meantime, hurried to our son's residence and rang the doorbell many times, but nobody came. We rang the doorbell nonstop until my daughter-in-law at last showed up, looking unkempt and wearing her pajamas with the collar open. Gosh, it was loud. Who the devil is that? I saw a young man with brown hair crofts in the rear of the room at that very time, absolutely nude. I was aware of it, but my daughter-in-law widened her eyes and hurriedly closed the door as soon as she realized it was us. You came here so abruptly, it's really nasty of you. Return home. Aggressively, my daughter-in-law yelled from behind the door. We need to talk about something urgently. I said, please open the door. She answered, I can't open it right now. With reluctance, I used the key I discovered in my son's backpack to open the door. The earlier young man ran inside and yelled, "Oh no, run!" After hastily getting ready, he ran out of the home. Victoria stood in the doorway, glaring at my husband and me with no remorse at all. Why are you even in this place? Are you already cheating on your husband the day following his death, before anything else? Stop being absurd. Well, he's simply a dude who fixes gas. What? So gas fitters these days do their jobs without clothing on. Victoria clicked her tongue in frustration at my mockery. Despite having a lovely face, her countenance betrays her nasty nature. Simon has left, and I'm done with the two of you. You are not entitled to speak. Simply depart. My spouse questioned her purposefully, his face crimson with rage. I can't see the grandkids at this moment. Where are they? My spouse then left to check something while feigning to look around the house. Victoria seemed like she was at a loss for words for a while, but then she started yelling at me. They visited a friend's home. What's incorrect with that? Avoid lying. When two children, ages 4 and 9, disappeared for the entire night, did you not worry? Even so, are you a mother? How do you know about that? Well, in what way are you aware of that? They walked all the way to our house late at night. She looked shocked and perplexed when I explained this to her, and she answered brazenly and shamelessly. My carefully reared son defies me, and our daughter isn't cute at all. Those brats don't need me. You may have these, but please pay me money. $100,000 is what I desire. Isn't it not much? I mean, she was the worst type of lady ever. The idea that a lady like her had caused suffering for my son and grandkids made me feel furious. Too bad you can't squander money in prison. I have a tape of our whole chat. Well, how innocent you are. For being a touch too severe with the kids, I'll be discharged quite soon. It's not only about the kids. You are aware that taking another person's life is a terrible offense, are you not? There's evidence. In actuality, Simon's journal was inside the bag. He assumed Victoria was having an affair because of her frequent trips. Additionally, there was a report from a detective Simon had hired to look into the matter. In fact, based on his account, his wife was having an extramarital affair with a young man that she met at a bar, the very man who ran away from the house. This was also written in the diary. I feel like my life is in danger. Simon had apparently had a number of near-accident experiences, including being almost hit by a car and nearly being pushed into train lines. He was ready for a divorce and had taken measures since he thought his wife was going to attack him. It may demonstrate my affair, but it doesn't demonstrate my murder of Simon. It's simply elderly people babbling away. The cops have more pressing matters to attend to. Can you still say that after hearing this? My husband showed up with a security camera in his hand while I was fighting with Victoria. The day before Simon's death, he had discovered it. As he wrote in his diary, he had placed a security camera in the living room. When the recording was played back, his wife and the young man were speaking. I violently shoved your spouse down the steps. This time, everything went smoothly. I'm grateful. We will now receive a substantial life insurance benefit. Victoria's lips trembled wildly and she went pale. I just said that as a joke. To what extent are you willing to lie? I'll request a reinvestigation from the police and bring all the proof with me. During interrogation, your partner in the affair may reveal everything about you. Oh, and Claire said something along these lines. The pedestrian bridge where Simon fell is a busy one, and many modern autos are equipped with cameras. I'm sorry, said Victoria. That dude intimidated me. If you ignore this, I'll give you half of the $100,000 life insurance payoff. Pardon me, it's not you, Redditovits. That is not possible. We made each other beneficiaries when we got married. I informed her that Daniel had been named as the beneficiary instead of her in Simon's journal. No matter how old they were at the time, Simon's trust mechanism permitted his kids to get the rewards when they became a specific age. That's ridiculous. It was a plan to get a large sum of money. She was very wretched and fell on the ground, sobbing and yelling like a small kid. We silently and icily observed her. Both were then taken into custody. It is a terrible crime to take someone's life, and the perpetrator is unlikely to go free for very long. Not even if they were to get out of prison would anyone want to interact with them. My grandchildren currently reside with me. Indeed, my daughter and her spouse cohabit with us, providing for our needs and tenderly raising the two kids as though they were their own. Emily, who was previously silent, has gradually started to open up and start talking more. I'm resolved to endure to the very end in order to